And so you're going to see that first on the Facebook.
I'm not going to have it on because otherwise I'll be distracted.
I'm just going to share it to my page. There we are.
Is it live? I was going to say,
It
are we
is.
live? Why is it live? Now.
No, I don't have everything here. So I have our newest Wicked collection, Frozen, the new
Yeah, we are live. So I'm
Grease.
trying
I'm
to.
just yes, I have some there. Yes, I do.
Hopefully this will work.
Pages, not that I don't know.
It's the first
Oh,
underground
you just
event.
moved the table. Did that change the camera?
No, because the camera.
Oh, yeah.
I hope. But if it did, we'll just
No, it's okay.
go with it.
Karen, are these yours? I bought them at the Broadway Makers Alliance.
And now we're live. Hello, friends.
Hi.
And hello, everyone out there. I am Lauren Van Hamer from Beltline to Broadway. I am a podcast host and one of the makers here at the Broadway Makers Marketplace, which is so exciting. So this is kind of my studio in the city for the next couple of days, and I couldn't be happier. And I am with a little slice of heaven from home.
Thank you.
Timothy Locklear, who those of you who follow Beltline to Broadway and know the Raleigh theater area, Tim is the managing artistic director of NRACT, North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater. And it's just a southern takeover. We're going across the state of North Carolina. Kirsten Wrinkle is from Charlotte. She is an arts advocate and lover of theater and all things, and just so involved in supporting artists locally in North Carolina and then here in New York. So I'm just so thrilled to have you here. It's like it's a North Carolina takeover. Here in New York City. So thank you for being with me. And everyone out there, I hope you can hear us okay. If you can't, type it into the chat. But if you want to interact with us, I can see your comments and your questions, and we'll respond to as many things as we can get to. So, all right. So let's start with you, Mama Tim. Everyone knows Tim Locklear as Mama Tim in the Raleigh community.
Yes, they do.
We all know you as Mama Tim. You are in the city. We do not typically travel together.
No.
You are in the city celebrating your husband's birthday.
I am. Tomorrow is his official birthday, and we got here yesterday, so it's just fun to be back in the city after such a terrible time for us.
It is. And theater's coming back regionally. Theater's coming back here in New York, which is what makes this so exciting. Tim, last night we were at Junior's. I have to go to Junior's for cheesecake. We went to Junior's after the show, and you were talking to me about a woman who really inspired you to pursue theater. And all she asked you was that you pay it forward, which is how you become Mama Tim to so many. Will you share that story with everybody?
Of course. I went into Air Force out of high school. And when I came back home, I've always loved theater. And I did not have a degree in theater. And so I was working with a community theater. And Miss Joanne Bastion, my mentor, my lifelong mentor in theater, she came to the community theater, came to the area. She had worked in New York and had left New York, and she and her husband was in the local town I was in. And she took me under her wing. For 4 years, she taught me everything she knew about theater. I was on stage as an actor. She gave me my first chance to direct. And she was such an inspiration. And she told me, she said, if I could give you a degree in theater, I will. And I said, I don't know how I can ever repay you. And she told me, and I've never forgotten, she said, the only way you can ever repay me is to pay it forward. And so throughout the time that I've been involved in theater, and especially the last 8 years being the managing director of NRACT, with the classes, the camps, the actors that come in, I just want to instill in them the love that Joanne instilled in me for theater. And that's how the term Mama Tim came about. The actors, and I can't even remember exactly what production, they started calling me Mama, and now the whole theater community of Raleigh and the Triangle knows me as Mama Tim.
I love
So
that.
that's how
We
it
all
came.
know him as Mama Tim.
Right.
And you, Miss Kirsten, has become known as the FG, the fairy godmother of this palace to theater fandom that we're sitting in, which I love. Talk to me about you. Kirsten and I feel like we're soul sisters because we both live and love people with special needs. And for me, the reason that I love the arts and I love theater is I have seen it just give my daughter a voice and empower her in a way that all the mama pep talks couldn't ever do. So talk to me about how you have seen the arts impact your own life, your own family, your own child, and how you've turned that into a professional volunteer hobby, being everyone's fairy godmother.
I tell you what, and Tim, just how you get to be Mama Tim, I get to be Fairy G, and that's how most people know me. And I will answer to that quicker than I answer to my own name sometime. And I just, for me, I do believe that every day I want to wake up and leave the world better than I found it. And I get to do that through the arts. That is my vehicle. That is what lights me up inside, and that's what makes just the fairy dust come out. So it's like I just want to sprinkle fairy dust and remind people that they get to do it as well. And that is everybody. Everybody is deserving of love and belonging. Everybody. And so when you see, arts are not limited to people who are able-bodied or a certain way or a certain race or a certain anything. The arts are for everyone. They are, period. And the impact of the arts and the way they change. And I know I introduced, so my daughter is an artist and she's one of the Broadway Makers.
Alex.
Yes,
Alex Draws.
yes, and I'll do the shameless mom plug, alexwdraws.com, and you can see her Broadway dogs. And it just, art changed her life, and then theater just opened up a new realm. So, she loves to she went to SCAD for scenic design, and COVID happened and is focusing on her illustration, but it changed her life. And I work with an organization in Charlotte, North Carolina called Plank for Others. And we do inclusive theater. We do a show every year, and on stage, they're people of all abilities. They're people who look like everyone on there. And everyone loves doing it. And everyone loves doing it together. And we learn so much from it. And we learn and we grow. And I love talking with, some of our friends who have disabilities. And we have common ground. We may have lived different lives. We may have come from different backgrounds, but we both start talking about Wicked, and we're like, that light.
The light
that just
shines.
Yes.
Well, theater is like a common language, right?
Yes.
It doesn't matter what area of life you're from, what area of the country you're from, what area of the world you're from. Andrea and I have found with the coloring nights that we've hosted, no matter where you're coming from, you can speak this common language of theater and musicals and lyrics, and it just connects you. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get you.
Exactly.
I love that so much. Well, we're obviously here in New York. There's nothing like New York theater. Tim, you saw Jagged Little Pill last night. I saw Lackawanna Blues amazing. You were at Ain't Too Proud.
Mhm.
But what I love about all of us North Carolinians sitting here in this space is regional theater is alive and well. And even if you're not in New York City, there is theater wherever in the world you are, whether it's a small community theater, even your high school theater programs, they are
Yes.
doing some crazy work.
They are.
So talk to me, Kirsten, you travel all over the place. You're definitely Beltline to Broadway. She's Charlotte to New York, New York to Charlotte. What is your gut feeling? How are regional theaters doing post-COVID as things are reopening? What's the status of our regional theaters?
I have to say, regional theaters that don't have maybe the backing or the big producers or the money, talk about a scrappy bunch of folks. They're going to make it happen, and something happens, and they course correct. They don't stop. They course correct. And what I love is that Charlotte is really expanding. We've got some wonderful, wonderful theater groups that are putting on some really important shows. And they are not stopping. They're going to make it work. And so we've got the biggies, thank you to Blumenthal for bringing the big things in. Thank you to Blumenthal for providing all the scholarships that you do and all the community work. Thank you to the small regional theaters, such as, I'll give the Charlotte plugs up, and I'm going to leave people out, so I'm sorry, but Theater Charlotte, Actors Theater, Roy Sheriff has his theater company, Three Bone. Oh my gosh.
Yes, we were talking about that earlier.
Women owned and wonderful, wonderful things going on. And there's so many more. And I am so glad you said that about high school. Go see your high school musicals. They're wonderful.
Well, and you have to think about it. A lot of your Broadway stars, they sit on their high school stages. They started on, we were talking about Aaron Harrington, who is starring as Audrey Chu in Little Shop of Horrors. He actually started out on the North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater stage in Rent. So we have so many wonderful people. You did mention Blumenthal, so we have to do a shout out. The Bloomy Awards, which are part of the Jimmy Awards, part of the Broadway League. We have several Bloomy Award winners from Charlotte. Eva Noblezada. There are a few of them. Renee Rapp, and from Mean Girls. Eva's in Hadestown, and they're here on Broadway. They're in Charlotte, North Carolina. So support your local theater.
Exactly.
Yes.
Support your local theater.
I love what you said about being scrappy, because when COVID first happened, people talk about theater community, and that is a time that the theater community in the Triangle, and we have several theater companies who we started having our Zoom calls. What are we going to do in order to survive? That was the time that you really showed that it was a community, and some of our theaters thrived on virtual, some did not, because their audiences was not ready for that. Well, they started and then they got tired, and it's amazing that we were talking about the children and how it lights up their face. During this time of COVID, it really showed how much of a community we had in the Triangle area. And I'm sure it was the same way in Charlotte. And it was so special to see how we band together in order to survive, because North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater is a community theater. And like you just said, we had to scrap, and places like Raleigh Little Theater is a community theater. We have Theater Raleigh in the area, Burning Coal, the Women's Theater Festival, Justice Theater Project. There's so many theaters, and I know I'm leaving somebody out, but that come together just to make it work, and that's what we had to do for 18 months.
And Lauren Kennedy,
Yes.
Broadway star in her own right. She runs Theater Raleigh now.
Mm-hmm.
We're so blessed to have her. Eric Woodall, Tara Rubin Casting. we have him now in our area casting shows and running, being the producing artistic director of North Carolina Theater. So we just have a lot of amazing talent in the Carolinas.
I actually think, now that you say that, I think one of the things that has been interesting, and I would love other communities to speak up and say, how has it impacted your community? Because I know when people had to make the decision, am I going to stay in New York? Am I not? When it sort of, the writing was on the wall that this is not 2 weeks, and people made the decision to leave. And so I think they went back to either their hometowns or maybe their partners' hometowns, and they shifted. And did they stay in the arts? And what did they do with that? One of the Lauren, one of our fellow Broadway makers, Brett Shuford, and his husband Stephen Hanna. So Brett was in the cast of Wicked before he left, and Stephen Hanna was with New York City Ballet, I think. And went to Brett's hometown of Houston, which is my hometown, and they have now moved there, and they're there, and they're shifting their career there. So Stephen taught dance throughout. I don't know what they're doing now. I'm sorry, but they're using their passion and their skill. Still, they're just doing it in
just bringing it to a different community. And so if Stephen and Brett are amazing humans as well, and they have Broadway Husbands podcast. They are part of this collective of artists that has created this hub for the theater community throughout the holiday season. You can shop, there's going to be events, there's sing-alongs, karaoke nights. We're going to do a coloring party here in a few minutes this afternoon. So it's kind of your one-stop spot for all things theater.
Right.
Mama Tim did some shopping.
I already did some shopping. I did.
So,
great Christmas gifts. Come here for Christmas gifts.
Oh,
right?
I love
Hanukkah, Christmas,
Kwanzaa. If you have a theater lover in your life, this is theater merch by theater fans for theater fans. Those of you who know my background, I was a visual artist before I went into this whole journalism path. And so I love that so much of this is created and made by makers as part of the Broadway Makers Alliance, Broadway Bazaar. So it's a great spot. My new favorite spot in New York, I think.
Oh, I know. And just being here over the past few days, just people come in heading to the subway and they stop and they say, what is this? And they come and they're like, this is really cool.
It's cool.
And I'm thinking, yeah, it really is.
It's cool. There's like 10,000 ornaments on the ceiling. So
Wow.
It is like Kris Kringle vomited on the ceiling.
Christmas in here. I'm doing an IG takeover of the Broadway Makers Marketplace. Be sure you're following Broadway Makers Marketplace on all the socials so that you can follow us along today as we take a tour of the store, and I'll show you the ornaments. So let's talk musicals. Everyone who knows Mama Tim, we know the favorite.
Yeah.
Can you guess the favorite? If you're out there, Moses, I know you know the favorite, but Moses, we see you, Moses. He's watching from Raleigh.
Hi, Moses.
Color Purple just means so much to you.
It does.
NRACT is producing it later in the season. It's the last show of the season.
It's the last show of the season. Starts June 3rd of 2022.
What speaks to you about the Color Purple?
Oh, wow. I've told this story. The story itself the book was given to me by my high school teacher when I was in the 11th grade in 83. And she said, I think you need this book. I don't know what she knew, but I always said the story itself spoke to my soul. And it has been with me all these years. And it's about the human condition and being able to survive no matter what obstacles, no matter what people tell you, that you're no good, that you'll never amount to anything. It's about the human spirit and continuing to strive to survive. It's about survival. And there's been so much that has gone on in the past 21 months with COVID, and with me personally, it's about survival and how to get through whatever you're going through, whether it's COVID, whether it's the passing of a loved one. You have to go through and do the best you can in order not to give up. And I know Ms. Walker wrote it from a standpoint of a young African American woman at the turn of the century. And I know I've heard interviews with her talk about the ghosts that she didn't want any longer in her home. When she wrote this story, she said she had told the story, and when people revisited about doing the movie first and then the musical, she said, I've dealt with those ghosts. I don't need them back in my home, and gave her blessing to do the story. And I just think I can't say enough about the story, and what it means, because if I do, I might break down. But it truly is seated in my soul. That's all I can say. And I don't know if other people have a piece of art or a book or a piece of music that just no matter what will always bring a lump to your throat. That's what happens with me, whether I'm reading the book or seeing the movie or listening to the music from the musical. It does it every time.
And what I love about this is you first discovered it in 11th grade. You're at a very different place now.
Mhm.
All of us are after COVID. And so to revisit these stories
Mhm.
at different places in your life, it just speaks to you and hits you in a different way. And that's what I love about theater is no matter where you are, it's like, oh, it's like revisiting an old friend, except a little different.
I think,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think that my mom was so excited that I was going to be able to finally get to tell the story. And with her passing in July, I'm more determined now to tell this story than ever. And I always said if I ever tell the story, I'd retire. I'm not retiring, but, you know, I think things happen for a reason. I'm a true believer in fate. And maybe everything that I've gone through the past 21 months will make me take the color purple somewhere I couldn't have taken it before.
Absolutely.
So I can talk all day. I'm sorry.
I know.
Well,
Please don't apologize.
Kirsten, is there a musical that speaks to you in a similar way?
It's my two favorite musicals. My favorite musical will always be A Chorus Line, and that was the thing that just made me fall in love with theater. I think part of that is just that fear and the desire to be seen for who we are. So, and it's such a beautiful musical. And I have already said my best friend is going to produce my memorial service. And I said, the only thing that I ask is at the end, she is the full, of course, line finale in gold costume. I was like, that is, and then a big fat party afterwards. And so it's like, that's what I want at my memorial service. And the other musical that I love, the two musicals that hit me when I was a kid is Pippin. And I think, as a 56-year-old woman, I really relate to Pippin. It's like, oh, my existential crisis keeps like poking at me. And it's like Pippin does it in his little whiny way, but it's like I adore the show and I adore the revival. And so yeah, I think it's that. What am I here for? What am I meant for? And and again, that's why I've embraced the role of Fairy G, because it makes sense to me.
Mhm.
Like that is something that I can step into and it's like, oh, this makes sense. I things do happen for a reason. I also believe that we may not ever get to know what that reason is. And so I just need to carpe the F out of this deal.
There you go.
I love that.
I love that.
That is so fabulous.
One of the things with you saying that is I have a motto that so many people have heard me say before. It doesn't cost you a dime to be kind to someone. And that's one of the things that, going back to Joanne Bastian, paying it forward, being kindness, and sometimes that kindness is tested time and time again. But I just think with everything that we're going through in the world and within the theater communities, trying to come back, and what the audience, making the audiences feel safe, you have to show that kindness and respect for where people are with their comfort levels as the audience members.
I love that you brought up Color Purple because I love your story and I love that you shared that, such a vulnerable thing. I also love that it talks about the integration of literature and theater. It's the arts. The arts are really broad umbrella. And not every book needs to be made into a movie or a musical, and vice versa. And I love when so the life-changing book for me, the reason I was a comparative literature major in college, which I had done nothing with except I know how to analyze the heck out of a book. It's a really useful skill. I don't know math, but so it was in 8th grade. I read The Once and Future King, the Camelot story, and it, like, my world exploded. I love it. I love the story of King Arthur. I love the story of Camelot and Merlin and all. I just love it so much. And when I got to listen to so Camelot is a musical. Everyone likes to poo-poo. My family likes to poo-poo. Nobody likes Camelot.
There's no judgment here at Broadway Makers Market.
If I always say, like, to defend myself on the Camelot story, I heard an interview that Lin-Manuel Miranda loves Camelot. So we have our own little Camelot fan club.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you for validating my Camelot love. And it's a wonderful story. The hope at the end is just like, because he loses Camelot, and it's like the young person and the hope at the end, and it's like, oh, that's why I get to work with teens, and I love it. I'm also on the board of Rosie's Theater Kids here in New York, and I'm up here for the gala next week, and it's like, oh. The young people and the difference that the arts make in lives, and the hope that it gives them, and the hope that it gives me. It's beautiful.
This is not Barbara Walters. There is no crying at the Broadway Makers Market.
You can cry right
There is always crying with Kirsten Wrinkle. There is always crying.
Well, I am so grateful you're both here with me, and it's like we've done this North Carolina Southern hospitality takeover here, but it's just joyful being here with both of you. It's joyful to see you smile and see you return to New York and see you be at the theater. And we've been Zooming for the COVID, so it's just nice to be sitting with you in person.
Exactly.
I am going to log off because Andrea Koehler, she's over there. She's talking, she's chatting, she's smoozing. So at 3:00, I will log back on with her and we will do some coloring. And in the meantime, you can follow us both on the Instagram channel. And if you tuned in late and you want to hear this glorious conversation between Mama, I'm going to call this episode When Mama Tim Met Fairy G.
Love it.
If you want to hear this glorious conversation between Mama Tim and Fairy G, you can watch it right here on Facebook as soon as we log off. And I will see you in about an hour.